Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We know you want to get smart, fast, and you appreciate those surprising insights, those aha moments, without getting totally bogged down.
And today we've got a really fascinating figure, Bob Camblin, an artist who's well known, but also kind of an enigma.
Definitely an enigma.
Right.
Widely recognized, work sells for high prices, but still has this air of mystery.
Absolutely. His art is incredibly diverse, and his life story, full of twists. That high demand for his work just adds to it all, doesn't it?
It really does. So our mission today is to kind of unpack Bob Camblin's artistic philosophy, explore some key themes in his work.
Yeah, we'll be looking at his own words, bits of his biography, interpretations of his art, trying to piece together what made him tick.
Okay, let's start with his worldview. He had this really interesting idea about wanting a perfectly average perspective.
Right, that quote is fascinating. He wanted that view so he could enjoy both science and magic. He was looking for a bright gray where they
A
meet.
bright gray. I like that. It's not choosing one or the other.
Exactly. It suggests he wasn't interested in a strict either. He was searching for, I guess, a synthesis, a place where logic and maybe intuition could coexist.
It feels like he saw reality as much richer than just, black and white categories.
And that connects to his belief in the sixth sense, which he said was, without a doubt, senza dubio, as he put it.
That's a pretty strong statement. No room for skepticism there.
No. And if you tie it back to wanting that average view, embracing science and magic, well, trusting intuition fits right in. He valued knowing things beyond just empirical proof.
Makes sense. Okay, so how did this thinking translate into his views on art? His perspective seemed to evolve quite dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. He famously said something like, art for art's sake has become art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake.
Wow, that's quite a progression from
Yeah.
pure aesthetics to survival.
It really is. It suggests art became something deeply personal, maybe even essential for him, survival's sake. That implies art was fundamental to how he navigated existence.
Yeah, you wonder what prompted that. And he also stated art is not just images.
Which opens up the question, well, what else is it then?
Right.
Given his philosophical interests, he probably saw art as, I don't know, a tool, a way to explore ideas, challenge assumptions, connect with something deeper than just the visual.
That leads nicely into this idea of paradox in his work. I read a review describing his drawings as paradoxes made visible.
Oh, yeah, that quote's great. A trap that does not trap, a structure that does not move.
It really makes you stop and think, what does that even mean?
Well, a trap that does not trap. Maybe it's about mental traps or perceptual ones, not literal cages. And a structure that does not move could look static but hold hidden energy or maybe profound stillness.
So he's using these contradictions visually to kind of jolt us.
I think so, to break our usual ways of seeing. Which connects to his advice, step off the train of thought.
Ah, yes. And finding power in no power, doing work that is not work. That sounds very Eastern philosophy influenced.
Definitely echoes of Zen and Taoism there. Step off the train of thought. That's about direct experience, being present, not lost in mental loops.
And the power in no power.
That sounds a lot like wu-wei, effortless action, letting go of forceful effort, allowing things to unfold. Maybe that's how we approached art sometimes.
So less about striving and more about allowing. This idea of balance seems key too. He talked about balancing and being for and against.
Holding opposites together, yeah. And finding that stillness, the still pond, even when there's mental lightning.
It's not about eliminating the lightning, the mental activity.
Seems not. More about finding a calm center within it, a deeper state that coexists with thought. It's a powerful image, that still pond amidst the storm.
Okay, so we're getting a feel for his philosophical side. Let's ground this a bit in his life. Where did he come from?
Well, he was born in Oklahoma, studied art seriously, went to the Kansas City Art Institute.
And he got a Fulbright to Italy, right? That's pretty significant.
Huge. Imagine the exposure to art history, different culture. That must have broadened his horizons immensely. After that, he taught for a while. Rice University in Houston was one place.
So he was embedded in academia for a time.
Yes, absorbing, teaching. But then came a really radical shift in 1976.
Right, he just left academia to become a nomadic artist.
Pretty much. Packed up, traveled extensively, funded his art through sales as he went. A massive leap.
Wow, that suggests a real commitment to living his art, not just teaching it.
Absolutely. A desire for direct experience to feed his creativity outside the usual structures, making life and art one thing, perhaps.
And there's that book, Zen and the Art of Enlightenment. It focuses on his earlier drawings and writings.
Yeah, from 1950 to 1974. Apparently stuff not really meant for public eyes at the time.
So like a window into his process before the nomadic phase.
Exactly. Unfiltered thoughts, the evolution of his ideas. Probably invaluable for understanding him.
Okay, let's talk about a specific body of work. A most interesting year. 9 boxed illustrations.
That's the one. Landscapes, abstract patterns, symbolic images. All in this boxed set format. It seems like a really key piece.
And there are some interesting interpretations drawing on Zen and the I Ching.
Yeah, the way the images are separate in compartments could mirror how our mind isolates things, but the underlying idea points towards emptiness, shunyata,
Emptiness meaning void or something else.
more like interconnectedness. The idea that separate forms dissolve into a larger, formless reality. Each panel, whether it's a landscape or abstract lines, hints that truth isn't just in one form.
So the boxes show our limited view, but the art points beyond that.
That seems to be the Zen take. It's like a visual lesson in seeing beyond surface appearances and our own mental boxes.
And the I Ching perspective, how does that fit?
Well, the I Ching is all about change, cycles, the interplay of forces like yin and yang. So each panel in A Most Interesting Year could represent a different state, a different hexagram.
Like mapping a journey through different phases. Confusion, clarity, harmony.
Precisely. Reflecting life's constant flow and transformation, it becomes almost like a visual oracle, mirroring the I Ching's wisdom about navigating change, and then you layer on possible symbolist or surrealist influences, exploring the subconscious. It gets very rich.
It really does. And that idea connects back to the description of his art as koans.
Right, koans being those paradoxical Zen riddles meant to break logical thinking.
So his drawings, maybe unsettling or humorous, act like visual koans.
That's the idea. They disrupt our linear thought, invite a different kind of understanding. They can be, as that review said, like a meditation tool.
Which brings us back to Zen, challenging our usual perceptions.
Exactly. It pushes you beyond just looking, towards a deeper engagement.
And this connects to another idea mentioned, everyday enlightenment, finding profundity in the ordinary, even the absurd.
Yes, embracing impermanence, finding beauty where you might not expect it, not some grand, distant goal, but seeing the extraordinary in the everyday.
A sort of grounded spirituality, maybe, accepting things as they are.
Could be. Finding liberation and appreciating the transient nature of things, the small wonders.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's talk symbols. He had recurring motifs, right? Figure 4 traps, tattooed arms.
Frogs, scarecrows, jars of water.
Yeah.
Yes, quite a few. It's like his personal visual vocabulary.
What do you think they represented, the figure 4 traps?
Well, traps suggest entanglement, being caught, maybe by unseen forces or expectations. It's a potent image.
And tattooed arms.
Could be about history, things etched onto us, unspoken stories, permanence.
Frogs. Seems like an unusual one.
Frogs often symbolize transformation, stillness, maybe effortless wisdom in some traditions. Think of how they just are.
Interesting. Scarecrows.
Those are complex. Maybe renewal, like stuffing replaced each season, or vulnerability, could even link to metamorphosis, changing form.
And jars of water. He explained that one, didn't he?
He did. He saw them as turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones, taking obstacles and making them useful, holding potential. It's a beautiful metaphor for resilience.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much meaning he packed into these images. Now, he didn't always work alone, did he? There were collaborations.
Right. Especially with Earl Staley and Joe Tate, they formed groups like B&E Productions and The Holding Firm.
And they did collaborative drawings, paintings, even events.
Yeah, those events sound intriguing. Blurring art and life, perhaps. Performance pieces. It shows an openness, a move away from the solitary genius idea.
And Staley apparently learned a lot from Camblin.
He did. Staley mentioned learning how to draw and paint from him, which speaks volumes about Camblin's influence as a peer and maybe mentor.
Let's talk about his style for a moment. Mouches volantes. Dots and dashes creating optical illusions.
Yes, a very distinct technique. Flying flies is the literal translation, inspired by things like Dada, surrealism.
So he was intentionally playing with our perception.
Seems like it. Making the viewer active, questioning what they see, how the eye and brain work. It's not passive viewing, it's an engagement.
Which fits with his whole philosophy. And then there's the signing, works as anonymous. That's quite a statement.
It really is. In an art world often focused on the individual name, the brand, choosing anonymity emphasizes the work itself, maybe collective expression, over personal ego.
It aligns with that detachment we talked about earlier.
Perfectly. It's about the art's message or effect, not the artist's fame.
And speaking of the art world, he seems to have had a complicated relationship with it, the art game, as it's sometimes called.
Yeah, reports suggest he distrusted just painting for money. He had strong, maybe unconventional ideas about how art should be shown.
Like wanting artists to control the whole gallery environment.
Exactly. Minimizing distractions, creating an immersive experience, letting the art speak directly without the usual commercial pressures or standard white cube presentation. He was thinking about the whole encounter.
It all points towards wanting a purer connection between the viewer and the art.
I think so. Which leads to his emphasis on truly seeing versus just looking.
Explain that distinction a bit more.
Well, looking might be passive, just registering an image. Seeing, for Camblin it seems, was deeper active engagement, perceiving the layers, understanding the puzzles he often built into his work.
Puzzles and even traps.
Yeah, deliberate traps for the viewer. Not malicious, maybe, but challenges. Things to make you pause, question, look closer, and ultimately see more clearly. It's playful but profound.
It encourages that active interpretation you mentioned.
Absolutely. He wasn't just handing you answers, he was inviting you into a process of discovery.
And Earl Staley's memory of him as a great storyteller, someone full of life, it rounds out the picture, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds us he wasn't just this esoteric philosopher artist, but also a vibrant person who connected with others, shared stories, and clearly left a lasting impression.
So wrapping this up, it feels like Bob Camblin was this incredibly thoughtful artist, constantly probing the nature of art, reality, perception.
Definitely. His work isn't simple. It's layered with these philosophical ideas, symbols, paradoxes. It really does invite you to keep thinking, keep looking.
You could revisit his quotes, the interpretations we discussed, and probably find new connections, those aha moments we aim for.
Absolutely. And if you get a chance to see his actual work, maybe online or in a collection, that direct encounter could be really illuminating. It's often rare, quite intriguing stuff.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on, inspired by Camblin's way of seeing. Think about how often profound insights might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to shift from merely looking to truly seeing. What apparent traps in your own life, those things that seem like obstacles, might actually hold the potential to be stepping stones if you just looked at them differently. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.